Devils were black sheep were really bad eggs. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. You miserable, morbid, mutton-chopped tree. Go along and find some buried treasure, they said. It would be fun, they said. It would be fun. We'll put this creek bed here. I don't get it. This map is bullshit. How am I supposed to find treasure with this thing? What good is a book to me? I'm a pirate. I can't read. I could pretend. Before we begin, it's pertinent to mention that the Pirates of the Caribbean films are my favorite of all time. The first three, that is. 4 and 5 don't exist. I can make an entire video on why I think the original trilogy is great, but all you need to know now is that it has really aged like fine wine, or rum I should say, with some of the best action, writing, and effects in blockbuster history. And it's good to see the renewed appreciation over the last few years, especially in a cinematic environment dominated by bloated franchises and overexhausted properties. The 4th and 5th films notwithstanding. But again, that's all for another video. So when I first learned that On Stranger Tides was actually inspired by a novel called On Stranger Tides by Tim Powers, I just had to check it out and see if it was similar at all to this film that I tolerate and also know forwards and backwards. It is not. Okay, that's a mild exaggeration. Basically, the novel and the film share cosmetic similarities. The settings are the same, the plot points and some of the characters kind of align, but as a narrative experience, as the old saying goes, the book is better. The story follows John Shandenak. It's shortened to Jack Shandy. He's on a merchant ship sailing to Jamaica to get revenge on an uncle that stole his birthright, until that ship is captured by pirates and he's shanghaied into their crew. Shandy then dives into the tropical darkness of the New World. Friends, enemies, and black magic intersect, and he has to square away his new pirate lifestyle with the vengeance that still burns bright in his soul. So yeah, apart from sharing the first 5 letters of their names, there's almost nothing in common between Jack Sparrow and Jack Shandy. But that's alright. Shandy is a likable protagonist. He's charismatic and honorable even in his lowest moments. And the story he's centered in is also very engaging. The action-adventure element runs really thick throughout, with creative supernatural elements to boot. The Pirates films push the boundaries of PG-13, but with its colorful language and depictions of violence, this book would definitely make for an rated R movie. R! There's a character in this novel whose name is Skank. Like, sure, the Pirates films would feature actual tentacle porn, but they would never name one of their characters Skank. Despite releasing in 1987, the writing style is very ornate and descriptive, almost like a book that was written like 40 or 50 years before. It was a refreshing reading experience, especially when the action-adventure genre today is dominated by authors like James Patterson or Tom Clancy. That didn't mean it was always an easy read, though. Much like those older novels, there are just long, unbroken paragraphs even when the action hits its peak. I very much prefer when the actual structure of the writing complements what's happening in the story. Like, one of the novel's highlights is when Jack Shandy performs a puppet show for the pirates and he engages in this hilarious back and forth banter, creating dialogue for the little characters he's created. But overall, the content makes up for whatever density is there. Going back to the story, voodoo magic, or it's called Vodun in the book, is a major plot element, and it completely overshadows the Fountain of Youth aspect, which is an interesting polar contrast from the movie, which prioritized the Fountain of Youth over the voodoo magic. And frankly, I thought that was a better choice. The pirates in the novel, they hire these like witch doctor for hires to perform healing rites and summon spirits for protection on their voyages. Ghost ships just appear out of nowhere to wreak havoc, and at one point the characters almost turn into plants because some of the Loa got pissed off, I guess. There's almost this casual absurdity to the magic in On Stranger Tides, the novel, and it really vibed with me. Meanwhile, in the movie, the voodoo is just kind of there. It doesn't really do much, and it's just brushed off every time it's mentioned.
He's been zombified. Blackbeard's doing. All the officers are the same. Makes them more compliant.
What an odd thing to say.
We already discussed Jack Shandy versus Jack Sparrow, but there are a few other character parallels as well. Blackbeard's in this novel, but he's really only a secondary character that shows up in Act 2. He kind of, leads a voyage and then he just goes and gets killed off Ocracoke Island. It does delve deeper into his backstory, and the voodoo element is very cleverly incorporated into his character, much so than the movie, but I wouldn't exactly call him a major highlight. I did notice the direct reference between the novel and the movie Blackbeard, though. What page is it? Yes, page 217, Blackbeard says, "Hey, if I didn't shoot one of you now and then, you'd forget who I was."
If I don't kill a man every now and then, they forget who I am.
The more obvious villain is this guy named Leo Friend, and he is no friend of mine. This guy is a pathetic Weasley simp who just happens to be gifted with godlike powers of voodoo. There are no parallels between Leo Friend and anyone in the movie, at least as far as I could see, but he does make for a much more interesting villain than the movie's depiction of Blackbeard. Another parallel lies between the two female leads, Elizabeth Hurwood in the novel and Angelica in the movie. Personality-wise, they're almost nothing alike. I'd actually argue that Angelica is the better character overall. But it was interesting to note how in the movie, Angelica is Blackbeard's daughter and how he's kind of using her to get what he wants. In the novel, Elizabeth is under the direct control of her pirate father, Benjamin Hurwood, to get what he wants. It was interesting to see how the screenwriters kind of combined certain characters for the novel. They meshed Benjamin and Blackbeard into this kind of a composite character, and then obviously the daughter character's roles change as well. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed this book, and I'll probably be reading it again in the future. And if you're a Pirates fan like me, if you're looking for a fresh new adventure, especially if you're overwhelmed by On Stranger Tides, then look no further than, well, On Stranger Tides. And now, bring me that horizon. All the cars and the lawn equipment in the background are ruining my immersion. What the hell? For the sake of this joke, I can now read. This is my novel, Hell's Gulf, for those of you who like your horror with a side of brine and absurd comedy.